And we're live!
Welcome to the first fully live broadcast of Pixel Peak. We're glad you can make it.
The pressure is on, and this week's news is just as exhilarating.
A co-defendant for a high-profile Call of Duty swatting case was sentenced this week.
Meanwhile, popular streamer Ninja appeared on Fallon to promote his new book and defend the honor of gamers.
Finally, Epic Games is celebrating Batman Day on a whole new level.
And for this week's game review, reviewer Bianca Bortoluzzi is setting sail on the Sea of Solitude, EA's latest endeavor to win over more than just first-person shooter and sports fans.
Bianca will also be stepping into our studio to talk with host Sydney Thompson about the state of play that was broadcast earlier today. Talk about hot off the press.
Well, we're rolling, so there's no time to waste. I'm Kristen Lawrence.
And I'm Laird Davis, and we hope you enjoy your stay here
on Pixel Peak. The Call of Duty player who instigated a deadly swatting in 2017 has been sentenced to 15 months in prison. 19-year-old Casey Viner recruited Tyler Barris to swat another Call of Duty World War II player after a dispute involving a $1.50 wager. Swatting is when a person gives a false report in order to elicit an armed police response against another person. In this case, the address Viner provided was false and resulted in police shooting and killing Kansas native Andrew Finch. While this deadly incident brought swatting into the spotlight, this sort of hoax has happened before in the world of gaming. Some notable examples include YouTube and Twitch personality Jordan Kutra Mathewson, former pro Overwatch player Felix XQC Leonard, and 16-year-old Kyle Bugga Giersdorf, who won the 2019 Fortnite World Cup. Viner pled guilty to charges of conspiracy and obstruction of justice back in April. Viner has been sentenced to 15 months in prison, fined $2,500, and has been banned from any kind of online gaming for 2 years. Barris, who made the deadly phone call, was sentenced to 20 years in prison last year.
In plans that were leaked earlier this year, the Electronic Software Association, also called ESA, will attempt to rebrand E3 as a fan, media, and influencer festival in 2020. In the article by GameDaily.biz, members of the lobbying organization for E3 approved the sale of 10,000 more badges for the public. That will bring the total attendance to 25,000. According to the report, members of the ESA, which include several notable game publishers such as Activision Blizzard and Bethesda, all approved the proposal to add more tickets to the show. This may lead to a different E3 than those from those in the past, with one day that is industry-focused, followed by general admission days after. This format would match that of Gamescom, which is Europe's biggest gaming convention. Other changes to E3 would include an app that reserves your place to play game demos and ways to keep fans entertained while waiting in line. Previously, the E3 model would consist of a mixture of industry focus and general admission days for all 3 days of the convention. It will be interesting to see how the public feels about these changes to the E3 event when plans are officially revealed.
Video game publishers are excited for the next generation of consoles. In an interview this past week, Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick told investors that he doesn't expect the new consoles from Sony and Microsoft to change production costs. Zelnick continued on to say that the transition from last gen to current gen was not bad for Take-Two or the gaming industry as a whole. It's one of the first times the gaming industry was able to have a positive transition and not result in bankruptcy of another company. When looking at the economics of video game publishers, marketing is the biggest component, followed by development costs and distribution and licensing fees. While the publisher generally finances the development of the game, the majority of the value is made through sales and distribution. When the PS3 launched back in 2006, Sony was initially operating at a loss of $240 per console. For months, there were many gaming sites predicting that the PlayStation 3 would eventually bankrupt the company. The gaming world is different now in regards to console releases. When a new console is released, the PC format can account for 40 or 50% of the revenue. Zelnick added that new technology will allow Take-Two developers to be more creative and push the limits of gaming for the future. Sony and Microsoft's next-gen consoles are rumored to be released next year.
During an appearance on The Tonight Show last Wednesday, Tyler Ninja Blevins gave his 2 cents on the video game violence debate. During a section where Jimmy Fallon asked Ninja to debunk various gaming myths, Ninja said that it is on parents to control what kind of media their kids consume, saying, just like there are movies that are rated PG-13, rated R, the same thing applies with video games. Ninja also dispelled the notion that gaming makes people antisocial, drawing from his own experiences as a streamer and professional gamer. He added that, if you're playing video games, you're probably more social than people who aren't playing video games. The popular streamer appeared on The Tonight Show to promote his new book, Get Good, My Ultimate Guide to Gaming. This is the second time that Ninja has appeared on the popular evening program.
Holy Fortnite crossover, Batman! This year marks the 80th anniversary of Batman's first 1949 appearance in Detective Comics number 37, and Epic Games is celebrating the milestone in a big way. In a Fortnite update over the weekend, Epic transformed the Tilted Towers area of the Battle Royale map into the iconic home of Batman, Gotham City. This event gives players the opportunity to purchase a Caped Crusader pack that includes 2 Batman outfits, a Batman pickaxe, and a Bat glider that can be used in-game. There are plenty of other Bat-themed cosmetics and emotes available to purchase through in-game currency. And Catwoman even gets a cameo with a custom outfit. Unfortunately, Batman's famous no-killing policy didn't make it into the Fortnite update, as Epic Games wasn't willing to revamp their immensely popular title from the ground up. Epic Games isn't stopping the Batman-themed celebration with Fortnite, though. Over on the Epic Games Store, the critically acclaimed Batman Arkham Trilogy and the LEGO Batman Trilogy are both free until September 26th. That's 6 free Bat games for fans of those franchises to get their hands on. Whether you are a big fan of these games, or Fortnite, or both, there's something for Batman fans everywhere in the world of gaming, and more is sure to come.
Speaking of updates, since Minecraft first began, players have expressed themselves through their in-game creations and the skin textures they put on their avatars. Now, with the latest update to Minecraft, character creation has been added at long last. The new patch is currently available only to beta testers and allows you to customize your avatar's appearance, including things such as hairstyles, accessories, and even new body types and custom limbs. These additions to your character actually affect the shape of your avatar, giving your avatar more character than ever before. And if you want, you can continue to use or adjust the same skin texture you've been using up until now. While you now have access to over 100 new accessories, more are available to be purchased in the in-game store. The new patch is currently only available on Xbox, Windows, and Android, but will make it to all platforms in the near future. Minecraft has always been a game where the only limit has been your imagination, but it is reassuring to know that my dream of diving into the Nether as a hipster mermaid with robotic arms can finally become true. That's all for this week's news. Now over to our reviewer, Bianca, for this week's review of Sea of Solitude.
Sea of Solitude is exactly what you would think it is, a game about loneliness. Follow us as we wander throughout the sea-flooded city of Berlin and try to fix everyone and everything as a monster struggling with her own issues.
I'm still trying to piece it together, but I can't. I'm completely torn apart. I have family, I have friends, and yet here I am, feeling lonely again. What is wrong with me? I'm so tired of it. So damn tired. There must be a way out of here. I want to change it. Change me!
Sea of Solitude, a platforming exploration game released July 5th, 2019, was developed by German studio Jo-Mei and published by EA. During E3, Sea of Solitude was hyped up a lot, making it a pretty big deal for a game that only has a 3-hour runtime. The game was created to show a perspective of loneliness. Everyone involved in the making of this game wanted it to feel raw and emotional. Before you even begin the game, it offers a warning at the beginning, allowing players to know that there are some very heavy mental and emotional topics discussed within the game. Some of these include depression, suicide, anxiety, physical and emotional abuse, as well as family trauma. You play as a 20-year-old girl named Kay as she awakes in a boat by herself in the middle of a sea-flooded city that is all too familiar. The only thing she knows is that she's a red-eyed monster, and that there are even more bigger and scarier monsters than her throughout the game. As you continue playing, you piece together that each monster represents something or someone in her life, whether it be those she is close to and feels she needs to help, or even her own self-doubt and depression. The game is designed beautifully. The contrast of Kay's all-black feathers with the colorful, happy areas of the city is breathtaking, and the minimalistic feel to the game was a good idea on Jo-Mei's part. Even with the minimalistic art style, there are still so many details to the game, such as Kay's backpack seemingly becoming bigger and bigger, her black footprints that appear no matter where she goes, the freckles on her face, and bottles with little notes in them to assist Kay on her journey. The music score was just as beautiful. Guy Jackson was the composer for Sea of Solitude, and his goal was to make the player feel even more involved in the scenes with the music. And it worked. It was my favorite aspect of the whole game. I rarely take notice to music in video games, but Guy Jackson's composing for Sea of Solitude was extremely well done. It really added to the setting and scenes within the game. For the storyline, some of it personally hit me very hard at times, such as her family troubles and her own battle with depression and anxiety. It really resonated with me, so much so that I had to take a break from the game from time to time to give myself some time to think. Sea of Solitude does an awesome job at making you feel the emotions they want you to feel. However, taking on a subject such as emotional and mental trauma can be difficult for a video game to achieve. It almost feels weird leaving a review for a game like this. It kind of feels like I've been reading someone's diary and personal thoughts and I'm about to share it with the world. But it is just a game. And for Sea of Solitude, it seemed like they had all the right elements, yet were still struggling to achieve what they were going for. The game at times felt almost boring. It wasn't necessarily hard, just very frustrating, and for a moment the game would grasp me and have my heart pounding and then lose me with either bad voice acting, a cheesy quote, or there was simply too much going on in the scene. It was like a whole roller coaster. I'd be on the verge of tears 1 second and then I'd be disappointed. While dialogue was going on, and pretty important dialogue I might add, you'd have to focus on not being killed or focus on solving the corruption eating at the monster you're supposed to help. So, focusing on the dialogue was the least of my worries, often missing the hard-hitting things they were saying. Also, each of the voice actors were really awesome, phenomenal even, except for Kay's, the main character. There was something off about her voice for me. It was missing something, though that's just a personal opinion of mine and it doesn't directly affect the game for everyone, just for me and whoever agrees with me. The monsters were very unique and amazingly designed. Kay's self-doubt was a small, frail girl within a shell, hiding herself from the world while also speaking bad on Kay. Her depression took the form of a monster within water, often urging her to just give up and jump in the water, symbolizing suicide. There was also a monster the shape of a bird, a chameleon, a Medusa-like monster, and a black dog, each representing some part of Kay's life. The gameplay was roughly 3 hours, and some of the chapters felt a bit repetitive, especially the obstacles, but the storyline really saved that aspect. I loved each character you got to meet along the way. My favorite chapter was the final chapter. It was amazingly done and tied Kay's story together beautifully. The game also points out that you can't always get rid of something that's a part of you, depression, anxiety, fears, and more, but that you can work on it and help yourself grow as a person, learning how to deal with difficult things like this. The end of the game also played into the possibility of a second Sea of Solitude for a character you meet during the game, and that really surprised me, especially because I was expecting this to be a one-and-done game. Overall, it was a good game. Not bad, not life-changing, but good. Sea of Solitude was a decent game, even if it did miss the mark on a few things. At the end of the day, I really loved the style and music of the game, as well as how they ended it with a setup to a potential sequel. And Sea of Solitude isn't all I've been thinking about. Earlier today, Sony streamed its State of Play presentation, so I'll be sitting down with host Sydney Thompson to talk about it, like, right now.
Just a few hours ago, Sony held its State of Play that featured a variety of upcoming PlayStation games from indies to big blockbuster games. Here to talk about today's State of Play is game reviewer and PlayStation analyst Bianca Bortoluzzi. Welcome back to the studio, Bianca.
Thank you, Sydney.
How did you feel about the State of Play fan reaction?
So the State of Play fan reaction was up and down. People were asking about Batman because of the anniversary. Others were asking about Joel and The Last of Us 2. Others were wondering why the State of Play was such a big deal when it was only 20 minutes. And was that really why they jumped out of E3 to give us a 20-minute State of Play? There was a lot of mixed reactions, but overall, people seemed pretty excited for the games to come, especially the last game they revealed.
How does State of Play compare to Nintendo?
So the Nintendo Direct is a lot more detailed after they show the trailer of a game or hint at a game. They explain like things coming up that you can expect in the game, maybe new features, new things, just to come. While the State of Play kind of didn't give you anything. They played the trailer and then after that, nothing. It was just kind of like, this is when it's being released. Here's the next trailer. So.
Is PlayStation moving towards focusing on more indie-style games?
So from this State of Play, it almost seems like it is. There were about 4 games that were more indie-styled: Arise, Watam, Humanity, and After Party. And they all had that indie game style feel to them and are all coming out within the next year or so. So it seems like PlayStation is focusing more on that really pretty indie styled gaming.
What are release dates looking like?
So as I mentioned, release dates are looking more like this year. A lot of the games are later in this year, November, like Death Stranding and a few others. And for next year, you can expect The Last of Us 2 and Humanity, while Arise is coming soon, which means that either could come at the end of the year or sometime next year.
PlayStation is working on remastering Medieval. Do you think PlayStation will continue to remaster classic games like Nintendo?
So PlayStation has actually been remastering games for quite some time now, from Spyro, well, Activision did Spyro, but from Parappa, the rapper, and the Jak and Daxter trilogy and whatnot. So I think they are leading more towards remastering old games, especially with a lot of us grew up with these games. Like, it's really nostalgic. Like, Medieval is a game I grew up playing and whatnot, and so is Jak and Daxter and Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, all these games. So I'm looking forward to more games being remastered. I'm sure PlayStation will do that. I hope they do a Sly Cooper or Jex the Gecko remaster. Those are my top 2 picks.
What about Death Stranding?
So Death Stranding, we've gotten a lot of content about the game since it was first released, so I wasn't surprised that it wasn't a whole lot of, stuff about Death Stranding. We did, though, get a PlayStation and PlayStation controller based off of the game, which are really pretty and really interesting. If I had that pocket money, I probably would get it, but I don't. But it is really interesting, and I'm looking forward to the game, which is coming out in November.
What's up with The Last of Us Part 2?
The Last of Us Part 2. Ooh, I'm excited for that one. So we got to see Joel come back, which I've been waiting for. That is my boy. I was so excited to see him again. And then we noticed a bit of like a non-linear pace rather than a linear pace. However, with fighting scenes, it probably will be more linear, as accustomed to The Last of Us. As well as The Last of Us 1 is now available for PS Plus users. So for the month of October to get for free. So you can play that. And it will be released, we got release date, which is the biggest thing for The Last of Us 2. We've been waiting for that forever now, and it will come out February 21st, 2020. So I'll be asking for that for my birthday.
All right, that's all we have for today. Now to Laird and Kristen to wrap up our first live show.
Don't mess up. That's it for this week's episode of Pixel Peak. We hope you loved our first attempt at a live show.
We're all new to this, but this is just how we roll now.
That's right. You can watch us live again next Tuesday at 8 p.m. online at watchapptv.com or locally on Skybest channels 20 and 1020, on Spectrum channel 198, and on our campus television channel 23.3.
We are also going to be stepping up our online presence from here on out. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Pixel Peak AppTV. Follow us on those platforms for behind the scenes, smaller news stories, and more special programming.
Going live took a lot of work, and it wouldn't have been possible if not for our fantastic crew. Thanks to writers Jalen Curitin and yours truly, PlayStation analyst and game reviewer Bianca Bortoluzzi, and producers Caitlin Halley, Tanner Mazzell, and Michael Annabelle for getting this week's episode off the ground.
Thank you so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed your stay here on Pixel Peak.